It all began on a rainy Tuesday morning. The kind of morning when clouds hung low and the streets glistened as if polished by the drizzle. James Parker, a man of strict routines, walked down Main Street, umbrella in hand. Life had always been orderly for him: wake up at 6, coffee at 6:30, work at 8. His life was predictable, even boring. But that day would change everything. Lila Hart, a free spirit, skipped through puddles with laughter spilling into the wet streets. She wore a bright yellow raincoat that made her glow against the grey city. Her life was unplanned, spontaneous, a constant adventure. And that morning, neither she nor James had planned to meet. They did meet. At City Hall. James was there to renew his driver's license. Lila was there to file some personal documents. The clerk, a frazzled man with glasses sliding down his nose, was juggling multiple forms and impatient citizens. In the chaos, he handed James and Lila the wrong paperwork. One signature led to another, one stamp led to another, and before either of them realized it, they were legally married. James stared at the small certificate in disbelief. We, how? Lila's hands shook as she held the paper. Are we married? The clerk shrugged helplessly. Yes. I think. There must have been a mistake. The rain outside didn't matter anymore, everything had stopped. James felt panic rising. Lila felt a strange spark of amusement and intrigue. Can it be reversed? James asked. Yes, the clerk said, but you have to file papers, it could take weeks. Lila's eyes met James's. She saw his panic, his tight grip on the certificate. And she saw something else, an odd, shared absurdity that made her laugh. Or, she said softly, we could not. James blinked. We could stay married. Why not? She shrugged. Could be interesting. Neither knew why the word sounded right. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the strange thrill of fate. Maybe it was the beginning of something bigger than themselves. So they made a choice, to see what would happen. They spent the next week talking, debating, and awkwardly laughing about what to do. They were strangers. How could two strangers be married? Yet, the paperwork was real. And in a city where apartment leases were complicated and rooms expensive, they realized a practical solution: sharing an apartment temporarily. James offered a small but neat apartment downtown. It's not ideal, but, he started. Lila raised an eyebrow. I suppose living in chaos could teach me something about discipline, she teased. And so, they moved in together, their first week a mix of humor and tension. James unpacked carefully, labeling everything. Lila tossed her belongings onto counters, beds, and chairs, laughing when she nearly broke a vase. It wasn't love at first sight. It wasn't even friendship at first. It was survival and a strange, mutual curiosity. Living together was chaotic. James, who loved order, was frustrated by Lila's mess. Lila, who thrived on spontaneity, found James's rules suffocating. One morning, she spun in the kitchen barefoot, humming to a song no one else could hear. Why are you always moving like the world owes you a dance? James asked, exasperated. Maybe it does, she replied, twirling into a chair and nearly spilling coffee. Arguments followed: dishes, laundry, whose turn it was to take out the trash, even how the windows should be opened. It felt impossible, yet neither wanted to give up. Between fights, small gestures began to matter. James left her note on the fridge: good morning, sunshine. Lila started cooking his favorite meals without being asked. Gradually, they began noticing the subtle kindnesses in each other. One rainy afternoon, Lila came home exhausted and in tears. I don't know who I am anymore, she admitted. James didn't have advice. He didn't try to fix her. He just sat with her, held her hand, and let her cry. In that moment, Lila realized she wasn't alone. Months passed. They discovered each other's quirks and little joys. James noticed the way Lila's eyes sparkled when she spoke of her dreams. Lila noticed James's quiet strength, his patience, and how he made her feel safe without words. Their first real date wasn't a date at all. It was a night on the couch, blankets wrapped around them, watching old movies, sharing popcorn. Lila laughed until she cried at James's awkward teenage stories. James found himself opening up about fears he had never spoken aloud. They connected not through romance, but through shared moments of vulnerability. Then came the first real test. James's job required him to travel for several weeks. Lila struggled with her own work pressures. Miscommunications and minor misunderstandings led to fights over text and phone calls. One rainy night, after a heated argument over something trivial, Lila stormed out into the wet streets. She wandered aimlessly, letting the cold rain soak her hair and coat, reflecting on their strange, accidental marriage. She realized she didn't want to lose him, that he had become part of her life in ways she hadn't expected. Returning home, drenched and exhausted, she found James waiting. No words were spoken. He simply held her, letting the storm outside mirror the one inside them, until both were calm. That night, love quietly began to bloom. They started celebrating each other's quirks instead of arguing about them. James left flowers on the counter. Lila added her own little touches to his list. Arguments became opportunities to understand each other better, to grow. As months turned into years, the connection between them deepened in ways words could barely describe. Quiet evenings on the couch, stolen touches in the kitchen, laughter shared under rainy skies, all of it led to a natural closeness. One night, after a particularly joyful day together, they realized that the love they had built was more than just affection, it was a partnership, a bond that wanted to grow. It was then, with hearts full and trust absolute, that they shared their first truly intimate moment, opening the door to the possibility of bringing new life into the world. Soon after, Lila discovered she was pregnant. Panic initially overtook them. Could they handle a child? Were they ready? But seeing the flicker of life on the ultrasound, the tiny heartbeat, the fear melted into wonder. Pregnancy was challenging. Lila's mood swung unpredictably. James became overprotective. They adjusted to sleepless nights, discomfort, and excitement. They learned the true meaning of partnership. When their daughter, Emma, was born, they both felt something shift permanently. Seeing her tiny hands grasp theirs, her wide curious eyes, they understood that their accidental marriage had created a bond stronger than fate itself. Years passed. Challenges arose, work stress, family issues, sleepless nights, but they faced them together. They danced in the kitchen, laughed through small disasters, and supported each other in ways only couples who have grown through trials can. Emma grew up in a home filled with love, laughter, and lessons in patience, kindness, and joy. On a quiet evening, James and Lila sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in pinks and golds. Emma played nearby, her laughter mingling with the evening breeze. "I can't believe we almost didn't make it," Lila whispered, resting her head on James's shoulder. James smiled, the kind of smile that carries years of shared joy and hardship. "I can't believe this all started as a mistake." "The best mistake of my life," Lila said softly, laughing. James kissed her forehead, a gentle promise of love and commitment. "Mine too." From a clerk's era at City Hall, a life was built, not perfect, not easy, but filled with laughter, love, and family. The mistake that brought them together became a story of choice, devotion, and unshakable love. And so, the story of James and Lila teaches us something important. Sometimes, life's biggest mistakes can lead to the most beautiful journeys. Love doesn't always arrive perfectly or on time, it grows through patience, understanding, and learning to see the best in each other, even when life feels messy or unexpected. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to African Tales of Nubia for more beautiful, heartwarming stories that celebrate love, family, and the magic of life surprises.